Nothing the screen has ever shown before can surpass the thrills of
the Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space podcast.
Created from an atomic fireball hurled from outer space,
The Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space podcast
threatens man's very existence on Earth.
The Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space podcast.
Battles Godzilla, Mafia, and Rodan for mastery of the world. Men quake before the terror of their unleashed fury. All new, all never to be forgotten. A new high in
Visions from Monsterland. Hello everyone, welcome to the Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space podcast, bringing you Visions from Monsterland. My name is Jerry from Kill the Cast, and joining me for this inaugural episode is Don and Ellie from the Horror Mafia.
Screonk, everyone.
Screonk, indeed. Also joining us is the main man, Cortez, who you might know from Rad Radio, or as the best filler in the Horrorcast.
I'm sorry, I thought you were going to say my name there at the end.
No, I said
Hello,
Cortez.
Everyone. You did, my bad. Hello, everyone. Hello, listeners. Glad you could join us. I'm excited to be here. Let's get going.
And rounding up this trio of wonderful people I brought with me is the 10 out of 10 man himself, the third best host for 22 Shots, and the main host for Cinema Attack, Derek B.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Mostly because, like most of the Japanese names in all these future episodes, I can't pronounce his fucking last name right, so it's just a fucking letter.
That's fine. I get that all the time, Jerry.
I figured as much. I think I misspelled your name like 3 times trying to type it into Skype.
Oh, yeah.
Too many vowels.
Pretty much.
Too many silent letters.
Yeah. So, okay, well, let's start. And speaking of Derek, we'll start with Derek. Derek, where did your love of Godzilla and Kaiju and Japanese science fiction and fantasy come from?
Just watching it as a kid, like old school, like AMC, like before like The Walking Dead and all that shit started, and like old school Monster Fest where they had like not like 9,000 reruns of Halloween, but when they actually showed like good like creature features and like Amicus horror movies, like I saw Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. Then the first kaiju movie I ever saw was War of the Gargantuans, and I was hooked. And then I started looking for more stuff like that. Like probably the first Godzilla film that I owned was Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, the OG one, 70s. I owned it actually a few times under different titles, that movie, because actually Good Time Video actually sold that a few times under different titles, I believe.
Yeah, Cosmic Monster and Bionic Monster.
And one of them was like a weird like edited version where they edited some shit out. I'm like, what the fuck? You know, like
That I actually collect almost every different cover I can find for Godzilla VHSs just to see which version is going to be on there.
Yeah.
So fair enough. All right, Mr. Venom, aka the Cortez, where did your love of Kaiju come from?
Well, I'm originally from Connecticut, born and raised, and there was a station out there called WOR Channel 9. It was out of New York. This is back in the late 70s where we really only had about 13 to 20 channels total on your cable system, or over the air, actually. This was before even pay cables. So, but anyway, yeah, WOR would have kaiju, generally Godzilla movies. I say kaiju, but for the most part, it was Godzilla movies. And they would do that every Sunday morning right before wrestling. So that was like a 4-hour block for me, was a kaiju movie at either 8 or 9, and then pro wrestling for 2 hours after that. that. I believe it was not WWF. It was like NWA, Pro Wrestling from the South. But anyway, I just developed my love for Godzilla movies specifically. I had to kind of broaden my horizons on my own to discover other kaiju movies, Gamera and the like. So basically just growing up with them, absolutely loving them. I don't remember ever running out and actually purchasing one until I was well into my 30s, and I actually bought like a big box set that I found like at a consignment shop or pawn shop or something like that. It had like 6 to 8, if I remember correctly, Godzilla movies, like Son of Godzilla was on there and stuff like that, and just absolutely loved it, wore it out. And now my collection has definitely expanded. Now I'm a little jealous of Mr. Herring's kaiju toy collection, so I need to get working on that. So I think that's going to be my next big mission.
Same here, man.
Oh yeah, when I brought this idea to them and I was talking to them about it, I kept sending them pictures of just random stuff I have, because I have a bunch of Godzilla stuff. And we'll get into that here in a moment. Don, how did you get into the world of giant monsters from Japan?
It was it was an assignment that I had in elementary school. We were tasked with interviewing our parents, and it was supposed to be like a compare contrast how they grew up to how we were growing up. And my dad was always at the drive-in, so I sought out some of the titles that he was mentioning. And the one that stuck out was Rodan, only because I found it first. And I still remember the way I felt watching it the first time, sneaking down at midnight to watch it, turning the sound down to like 2 or 3, and then just, sitting like 2 feet away from the screen to barely hear it. And the way my face felt just smiling and watching what I was seeing on screen, it's something hasn't been topped yet, and I'll take to the grave with me. So,
hey, fun fact: I just got Rodan in on Laserdisc.
I know, I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that.
It's actually put out by Vestron.
Really?
Yeah, it's a Vestron title. I thought it was pretty interesting. And as for me, I got into it. My grandfather loved to watch monster movies with me. We'd watch Wolfman. He's the one that showed me Jaws when I was like 4. And one of the movies that we sat down and watched was the Godzilla King of the Monsters with Raymond Burr. And then after seeing that, anytime I could get a Godzilla movie, I'd watch it. I remember watching them on Sci-Fi all the time back when it was spelled correctly.
Right.
Like, in fact, the one I remember them showing the most was always Godzilla versus the Spog Monster.
Yeah, I remember that being on there a lot too.
Oh my god! I felt like every time there was a Godzilla movie on there, it was that movie for some reason. Maybe Sci-Fi was really on the going green early. They were like, we're back in Banno's message here.
Yeah, definitely.
So eventually we will go into like maybe a top 10 list of our personal favorite Godzilla movies as adults. But I want to ask all of you, as a kid, what was your favorite Godzilla movie? Where we'll take it back and start back over with Don. What was your personal favorite Godzilla movie as a kid, or any of the Kaiju movies? It doesn't have to be Godzilla.
I could have watched Mothra versus Godzilla any day, anytime, anywhere I wanted to. That thing it got to the point where I would actually act out Godzilla's movements on the screen as I was watching it. I used to move all the stuff out of the living room, and I used to act out the fight. And, I'd hurl myself to the ground when Mothra would knock him down and, stomp through the city and actually act out what was going on. I actually even went ahead and made a cassette tape off of the soundtrack from hearing the movie playing on screen. So I would take that and have it going with me wherever I could, because that was the only way I could afford the soundtrack. So Mafia versus Godzilla, that's the one that stayed with me.
Nice. Cortez, what was your favorite one growing up?
Well, I'm a big fan of variety, so I always liked the ones where there was just as many monsters as possible. So the first one that I saw that had a large cast would have been Destroy All Monsters, and yeah, that was easily my favorite, probably until I saw Godzilla versus King Kong.
Gotcha. I have a Destroy All Monsters poster on my wall right now.
Nice.
All right, Mr. 10 out of 10, Brandon. I'm just
Brandon.
kidding. I'm just kidding. If Brandon listens, I want to tell a joke to him. Just Derek, what you got?
Well, one that always sticks with me when I was a kid, and I know this one's probably, if you look at it like a technical level, because of some aspects of it, might not be like the greatest made one, but it's Godzilla versus Gigan. Because Gigan's my favorite kaiju. I always loved the design,
Yeah.
and just it's the first time like Godzilla like the big like tag team match between like with him and Anguirus versus Gigan and King Ghidorah. And I like the whole like little like side backstory with the aliens and what the aliens are and shit. Like it's cool.
Yeah, Gigan was definitely one of the best designed out of all of it. He just such a unique look.
Definitely.
I'd actually almost want to see a backstory involving what he was like before the mechanizations.
Yeah.
That would
Before the chainsaws.
Yeah, before the chainsaw and the visor and all that. What his actual form would look like. That'd be really fun.
His original form was a space chicken.
Basically, sadly.
Well,
the buzzsaw chicken.
I want to see it. So.
Yeah. So as for me growing up, my favorite Godzilla, and it's still my favorite to watch no matter what. It's King Kong versus Godzilla, specifically the American version of it. That's like my go-to movie if I just feel like shit and I want to just put something on. I will put that movie on. I wore out several VHS tapes of it as a child. I absolutely just adore that movie. I think it's entertaining. It's funny. It has great fight scenes. Sometimes it's kind of like a little too goofy, and you're like, quit trying to deep throat a tree. But you work with what you got, So with that being said, we have all came together to bring you the visions from Monsterlands, to jump into not only Godzilla movies, but Gamera movies, and some of the non-kaiju movies that are more just weird science fiction movies. Like, I know me and Derek both cannot wait to get into Matango.
Yes, definitely.
I am so excited. If you just listened to my top 10 Kill the Cast, top 10 favorite horror movies episodes, Matango made my list, and I'm probably one of the few people that would put it on a top 10. But I love that movie. Derek loves that movie. And Cortez, have you seen it?
I have not.
Oh, do not watch it until we do an episode on it, because it'll be great for your first time watch. See what your reaction is.
Yeah,
that's good.
Oh, it's a great movie. Don, have you seen it?
I've only seen it under Attack of the Mushroom People. I haven't seen it as Matango.
Gotcha. Well, if I remember, Derek, we both have the
Tokyo Shock
release, and its English dub is great.
Yes.
It has, because I am actually, and I'm sure this will get me killed in some circles, I actually prefer dubs. I like to watch what's going on in the screen, and a dub movie almost counts as a secondary movie to me. And I like it. I like to see just the art of taking something that's clearly Japanese and making it American and selling it to an American culture. Some butchers are worse than others, but some are not that bad. And I am a huge backer of American dubs. And as we go forward, we'll have sometimes where we will actually battle that out. But the movie today, not one you really battle out, because there's 3 versions of this movie, depending on what you watch. So you've got the original Japanese version, which is what we watched for this episode. Then you've got 2 versions for America. You've got the Sandy Frank version, which is what you would have seen if you watched the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode. They use the Sandy Frank version. In fact, I believe all 5 Gamera movies they cover are Sandy Frank versions.
Right, yes.
So, yep.
Yeah,
I've got the box set, yeah.
Yeah. And then, man, that, you've got the 10 case, right?
Yes, sir, yep.
Oh, man, that is I love that set. I'm so glad I picked that set when it came out.
It's expensive now.
That's true. And then there is a Americanized version, much how we saw with like Godzilla King of the Monsters. That one does have added scenes, and it's the one featuring the American actor Brian Donlevy. So that's the one I actually have the least amount of experience with. I've seen it once, but it was so long ago I really don't remember. And I'm trying to find it, but it's so far, from what I can tell, the only release for that one would be VHS.
No, I've got that on DVD, actually.
With Brian Donlevy? Is it in one of those
Yes.
really tiny cases?
No, it's an actual legitimate DVD. You can find it under the title Gamera, the Invincible.
Oh, snap. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, the thing is, be wary, there's 2 M's in Gamera.
What? Who? Why did you put 2 M's in Gamera? What the
Who put that out? Alpha?
Alpha, yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, I'm going to have to look that up because I literally will pick up like any VHS or DVD release of a kaiju movie if I don't own it.
Yeah, it's under Alpha Video, and it's called Gamera, the Invincible. It's not Gamera, the super monster or giant monster. It's Gamera, the Invincible.
All right, I will have to hunt that bad boy down. See, you learn something no matter how much you think you know. There is always room for improvement.
Yes,
and that's what we've got. Now, we are talking about the Japanese version of Gamera that came out November 27th, 1965. The budget for this movie was 40 million yen, which is... okay, I'm not doing for inflation. I took what was 40 million yen in today's Japan and compared it to what it would be in American. So you would have to do what's the word? Deflammation? Something
like that.
And I'm not going to do that. But that was around $379,000.
Jesus.
Yeah, so not that bad. But the movie did so well. The next movie, Godzilla vs. Baragon, which is, hint, hint, by the way, my favorite Gamera movie, is 80 million yen budget. So that's pretty good. Now, I've got a question for you guys. So while I was doing research and everything, I noticed, much like horror movies, a lot of kaiju movies get low ratings. This movie has a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 4.6 on IMDb. Now, obviously, kaiju movies are a close kin to both sci-fi and horror. Do you think that this leans it closer to horror because it seems like it gets the same kind of punches from critics that a horror movie does? Derek, how do you feel about that?
I think it does. They get like misunderstood, like they're goofy, like, well, because they're suitimation, so it's like, you know, like guys in suits and like shit like that gets you, like, they get like criticized on that certain aspect of them. You know what I mean? With like miniature sets and stuff, and some people do look at that in a different way than like us do. You know what I mean? As fans of these films.
Very true. Don, how do you feel about this whole rating system that kind of punches on these kind of movies?
I have a lot to say about this. Mostly because I grew up on the Japanese ones over the Americans, so I look at the Japanese versions and I think they're superior in almost every single instance. For me, if I was to just give out a blank guess, I would just say kitty special effects tone. It's not worth my time.
That also brings up a good point. I don't know if they're rating which version of the movie they're rating, since it's a movie with 3 different versions.
That's true too.
So
if they're rating the Sandy Frank one, it's going to get a low score.
I like the Sandy Frank one. Come
I love
now.
them. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy the hell out of them. But as a film critic, you still have to admit the quality's not quite on par with the Japanese ones. I still love them. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
Fair enough. I'll give you that. But yeah, that's a good point. That could be definitely a bit of confusion because finding which version of because some of them have different names and that works out. Some of them do not. And then it gets tricky. And then some of them have like 7 names. Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, we're looking at you. So if you don't know what Gamera is a giant flying turtle. Now, depending on where you look at, much like the origin of Godzilla, there are 8 different fucking stories on how Gamera was created, including one which is very much like Gojira, where it was someone in a plane over the ocean, except they looked at clouds instead of the water. And that's how they got the idea for it.
Really?
Yes. Listening to, I have the Shout Factory release for this, which has a commentary by the great August Ramon. And he talks throughout there, he talks about like 4 or 5 different stories about how Gamera was created. And it's still kind of like, well, who really is the main creator is kind of hard to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on which one you look at. We won't really go into that there. If you want to know more about that, pick up the Gamera Shout Factory release DVD, because it is a fantastic. It looks a little under the Blu-ray that's out by Mill Creek. It's mostly just a little bit darker than the Mill Creek Blu-ray, but that commentary makes it so worth it. So
I'll have to pick that up. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I bought all of mine off eBay for like super cheap last year. So hopefully they're still really cheap on eBay. So with that being said, it's time to go into our initial thoughts and feelings about Gamera. So let's give it away. Cortez, drop us some Gamera knowledge. How do you feel about this movie?
I'm before this week watching it. I hadn't watched it in over 20 years, admittedly. I'm a little behind on my Gamera studies.
So the last time you watched it, what, Mystery Science Theater?
Yeah. I mean, I've watched it on Mystery Science Theater a few times, but that's the Sandy Frank one. As far as the original Japanese,
Gotcha.
We're talking. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't seen this in a good at least 20 years. I mean, I moved to California in 2000, and it was definitely before that. So, but let me tell you, watching it this time, it just reminded me what a stellar film this is. I was actually very impressed with the performances, the cinematography, the design on Gamera. I mean, 1965, that's a terrifying turtle. I absolutely loved the soundtrack. There's very little negative I can really take out of this after watching it today. I mean, I watched it this morning and I just had an ear-to-ear grin on my face pretty much beginning to end. Whether the movie was intentionally comical or unintentionally comical or just riveting, I just found myself entertained. It was hard to take notes. That's always a sign of a good film when I end up not taking as many notes as I wanted to. If I end up with 4 to 5 pages of notes, then I probably hated the movie. So, but yeah, watching it today, I was just reminded of how much I completely love this franchise, and how lacking my knowledge on the Japanese Gameras are. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be studying up coming up soon.
Well, there will be plenty opportunities for that.
Oh yeah,
Derek, spit your knowledge on Gamera, man.
Well, the first time I ever saw like this original Japanese version was a few years ago when actually these Blu-rays came out from Mill Creek. So it was a very interesting experience then. It was very interesting because of like all the use of actual American actors that were in the movie too. Like there isn't just like Japanese dialogue. There's variation of like there's a few American actors within the film too.
Yeah. So have you ever heard how they got those guys?
No.
So they would a lot of times, a lot of those guys are actually legit U.S. military people. They would go to military bases to get them to come do the movies because they weren't worried about how good their acting was, because they didn't think that Japanese people would be able to tell.
Yeah.
So a lot of times those are legit military people.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they get paid nothing, so they probably would have done it for like $30 and a sandwich.
Especially that one that looked like Curly Joe.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about Curly.
All right, continue. I had to drop that little piece of info in.
Yeah, but like I said, like it was cool to interesting to see like the aspect that the film's not really all in Japanese. You know what I mean? There's some like other non-Japanese parts within the film. Yeah, I had a ball with it. There's some aspects of it that you could kind of see it leaning towards like the future of the Gamera series in this one with like the certain kid character that we'll get into. But that's on like all these movies too. But it's like the foretelling of that event where you see Gamera as like this lover of children in a way. You know what I mean? But he's very ferocious in this one because it's a standalone Gamera movie. And there's some great battles, and I like the look of Gamera in this one and just the way the story intertwines and what goes on. I like the three main characters. They're fun to follow. I like their interactions and stuff. So, yeah, I enjoy this one.
Yeah, are you going to be my golden goddess of luck?
My wife thought that guy was creepy as shit.
Yeah, talk about date rape.
Yeah, he's coming on a little strong. Especially where he just kind of keeps following them.
But he's not like the guy in Monster from a Prehistoric Planet.
Oh, God.
We'll get into that some other time, but yeah.
All right. So, Don, what's your first thoughts on Gamera?
Okay, so this is the second time I've seen the Japanese version. I first picked up the original Mill Creek box set, the DVD box set. I don't have the Blu-ray set. I have the DVD set. And I have a lot of fun with it. I think it's great. There's definitely plenty to like about it. I do have some flaws about it. Maybe they're nitpicky. Maybe it's just, maybe it's the film itself. I don't know. But yeah, this is still one of the better ones in the genre. I still enjoy it.
Fair enough. As for me, I mostly watched this movie as the Sandy Frank version with Mystery Science Theater. I watch most of my Gamera movies as Mystery Science Theater, just because something about like hearing the jokes and being able to see monster action is just fantastic. But putting all that aside, watching this one this time, I really enjoy. People who know me know I love black and white movies. I love the way they look. And the one thing I have to say, the cinematography in this movie is way better than I expected.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
like, the use of faraway wide shots, the composite shots they do are fantastic. Even like when Gamera first appears and he destroys that ship and you see the people running away, those people, that's animation.
Yeah, that looked exactly like stop motion to me. That was a great.
Yeah. The fantastic use of matte paintings when you see the shot of New York City. That is a wonderful matte painting there. I am just a giant fan of it in general. The sets all look fantastic, and in fact, a lot of these sets are from a failed movie. So apparently, Daiei before they made Gamera, they were trying to get into the horror monster movie thing. They were like, you know what? We created the first real special effects science fiction movie. In fact, Eiji Tsuburaya worked on that movie and everything. So they're like, let's get back into it. So they were going to make a movie about giant rats. And there were a lot of problems, including the rats having fleas, rats escaping, not wanting to perform on camera, cannibalizing each other, all kinds of fucked up shit. It was terrible. So they dropped it, but they had all the miniatures, so they were going to continue to use the miniatures for the Gamera movie. And they look fantastic. Some of the cities just look really, really well done. Sad thing about that rat movie is there was a trailer for it, and it was destroyed. No one ever got to see it. So that movie never got fully made, but what was made was enough to put together a trailer, and that trailer is now lost forever.
Do we know the title?
I could...
Nezula.
I think it was something like that, because there was a movie that came out 10 years later that did the same story.
Nezula, the rat monster?
Yeah,
yes.
I think that actually took the intended script from the Gamera movie and then updated it. I believe that is actually what should have been this original Gamera movie, just updated to the modern times.
Said it wasn't a Gamera movie, it was that Rat movie failing is what made them go into the Gamera movie.
Yeah, because I've seen there's a lot of still artwork online about the original Nezula movie.
Yes. But unfortunately, we will never get that trailer, and that makes me a very, very sad turtle.
It's interesting because I actually do enjoy the modern Nezula.
Yeah, I wanted to see it because they basically kind of did a Food of the Gods thing, so I was very interested in it, but we'll never get it. Maybe one day we'll talk about all the movies that never happened, because there's a couple of Godzilla movies that never happened.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, with this movie, I find it very interesting because, like Derek said from the start, we get this connection with the kids, showing that Gamera is going to be a kid-centered movie. But the thing about it is they specifically did things to separate them from Godzilla. They did include more violence. The monsters were way more aggressive. Gamera in this movie is super fucking aggressive.
Yes, he is.
But he still saves a child, even though he should have killed that child and ate that child for my enjoyment. This was the only black and white movie in the series, and fun fact, it is also the last black and white Kaiju movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All going forward would be in color. So that's a very fun fact. But yeah, I love the fact that we see this. I love seeing Gamera as an antagonist because we never get that again. We never really get Gamera as the bad guy ever. So it's nice to kind of see him in that position. And I had a lot of fun with that. So now we're going to get into the good, the bad, and the young children. I fucking hate this kid. He's not as bad as Godzilla's Revenge Kid.
Or some of the actual later Gamera's own series too.
That is true. He's not as bad as some of the later ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason why Godzilla vs. Baragon is my favorite Godzilla vs. Baragon. Gamera vs. Baragon is my favorite Gamera movie. There's no fucking children.
Exactly.
It's fucking fantastic. I hate this kid with a passion. He's how do you... First of all, I understand loving an animal. I completely get that. I completely get the idea that your turtle disappears after you put him outside, Gamera shows up, you make that connection, and you're like, oh shit, that's Gamera. What I don't get is your dumbass going, you know what, I'm gonna hide myself in a box on a military thing, or jumping onto a fucking train that's heading straight towards Gamera. It's a train filled with gas. Like, I understand he probably didn't know, but what the fuck?
My question is, how did they survive that?
Duck and roll, Jerry. Duck and roll.
Duck and cover. Duck and cover.
Apparently. But I'm like, this kid is a dick to his sister and his dad. He's a dick to other children. Like, he's very self-centered. And that's kind of weird for especially for a country like Japan that is not, that at this time is very much not about the individual.
I love how he just gets himself involved with the fucking military. Like, oh, don't kill Gamera, and they're listening to the kid. Like, I would be like, fuck off, kid. You know.
I can't imagine the kid even gets that close to them in the real world. He'd get cut off a lot sooner.
There's actually that one scene where they're at the power plant. He actually pulls the tape up and goes up to him.
Yeah.
Him and his fucking sister get invited, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Well, they're not really invited. They're just there, and then they're like, all right, yeah, come on, tag along.
Yeah,
it's not really invited.
This movie is not very complimentary to the Japanese military.
That's true, but I will say this. I do love the fact that another thing that set Gamera apart from the Godzilla movies is they did not shy away from politics and naming names. While they did not name the mysterious aircraft from some unknown country, they were quick to point out other countries, the U.S.'s involvement, other countries. They don't really shy away from politics. When you look at Japanese Godzilla movies, they will just make up countries. They're like, no, we can't say it's anybody. Look, it's the U.S., but we're going to rename it something for this Mothra movie.
Yeah.
Gamera's over here like, no, fuck that. It's
U.S.
the
and
United
Russia.
States.
U.S. and Russia.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cold War like talk throughout this one.
Well, that's sort of something that you see in, the Godzilla series as a whole, is that they went straight for the fantasy and the outlandish. Gamera, for the most part, actually did try to keep it somewhat more grounded. They never really...
Yeah, until they got to Godzilla versus Gideon, and then they were like, fuck this, we're going to space.
Yeah.
That was the Hellraiser one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Godzilla, he always went for the outlandish stuff. We're gonna throw laser tanks at you. We're gonna, drop a black hole on your ass. We're gonna, send you to a different dimension.
I'm gonna fly like a fetus in the air.
Yeah. So yeah, Godzilla Godzilla embraced more of the outlandish possibilities of having a giant monster around. Gamera, for the most part, actually just kept it much more grounded and realistic.
Yeah, Gamera had a harder edge to it in general. When you look at this movie, like watching this movie, like if you watch this scene, like there is a lot of fire in this movie. Like whether it's Gamera shooting fire or eating fire.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot. I actually would love to know more about how the suit actor dealt with all the fire.
Must have been hot.
Well, you can tell that a lot of it was just a puppet head. For me, I noticed a lot of the shots of him firing his flame was actually just a puppet head with the nozzle on it.
Yeah, but you have like the scene where he's in the water following the trail of fire, eating it up as they're trying to get him to come to this island. And it's just like, man, to be in the suit, to be in the water, and have fire right in front of your mask. Like, that's brutal. That is dedication.
So,
also,
I mean, it is verified that the actor was always in the suit in those shots. Because the one shot that you're talking about where he was going along the water, like, it didn't seem like Gamera was really moving a lot. And I questioned whether there was an actor in the suit at that point. I don't know.
I know there's a faraway shot where he is moving and you see his arms actually kind of treading water. And I guess they could have done that with wiring, but to me it doesn't look like it. But yeah, a lot of the other shots with fire, there's definitely...
A lot of it, to me, I thought it could have been just him actually breathing it out and then just running the shot in reverse.
Yeah, it could always be a mixture of both, too.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm just looking at it, I'm just like, in general, even with the costume, using your suit with that much fire, like... We know in Godzilla movies there are times where the suit actors got hurt from explosions. And those were just like small firework explosions. And this one you literally have fucking basically flamethrowers on set. It's crazy. Also, how shitty of luck do you have to have for a typhoon to show up during your operation?
They're like, fuck.
No one wanted to sacrifice a virgin? Not a single person?
I mean, was meteorology technology not like up to date in '65 that they couldn't predict the storm? Like, I just don't know. I mean, were there no weathermen, meteorologists? No one could have said, "Hey, there's a storm coming. Maybe let's wait."
Could be. I don't know.
Z was a Z.
I guess it wasn't infallible.
All right, so let's get into some of our favorite things about this. We'll start out with Don. Don, tell us something that you just love about this movie.
Oh, I just utterly love that first attack on the power plant. That is, just one of the best miniatures. That's one of the best miniatures in the film. And, Gamera going around, smashing the buildings, explosions going off. Fun stuff.
And I love when they're like, we got him on his back. He's fucked.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like, guys, guess what? Flying saucer time.
Oh, yeah.
And then, they finally realized what that stone amulet was all along.
The Devil's Stone.
Yeah, they finally realized that it wasn't waves, it was actually the clouds.
Which I don't blame them. Who the fuck draws clouds like waves?
Yeah.
Well, that makes no fucking sense. So, whatever. All right. Cortez, what is one of your favorite things about this Gamera movie?
This may come off as funny, but I genuinely like this guy. I loved General Buddy Hackett. Did anyone notice that our general for the first like half hour of the movie sounded exactly like Buddy Hackett?
The guy at the radar station?
Yes, every single time he spoke, it brought a smile to my face. I know it was unintentional. I'm sure that was just his natural speaking voice, but the mere fact that I saw Buddy Hackett's face every time he spoke, sheer joy. So yeah, I got to go with that one.
Fair enough. Derek, what's one of your favorite things?
One of the favorite things is like the whole mythology, like about Atlantis. That's the whole reason why the whole like journey to the Antarctic started. And it goes into connection to like the 90s Gamera series too, because they always bring up Atlantis in the first, the Guardian of the Universe movie, where Gamera's like origin was like exactly like his actual origin where he came from. So I do like that connection, like the mythology that they kept throughout the series, and it was resonated in this one, and it went on to like later like reinstallments of this movies. And one thing that I really like is like how Gamera is like, he's like he could walk on twos, but he also like he's crawling really fast on fours. It could become quadruped too, as well as a biped kaiju, which is interesting.
That's true.
And I just like the destruction of Tokyo, and like all the destruction scenes are really great in this one.
Yes. I've got two just really big favorite scenes I like just because of cinematography. One, I love Gamera's entrance coming out of the ice. I just think like him on that ice is fantastic. And a lot of it was real ice. They would actually bring gigantic things of ice to shoot, but they would melt so quickly because of the hot lights that they actually ended up damaging a sound set, which is pretty funny. But they're also, when they're doing Plan Z and they get them to the island, typhoon hits and it starts raining, some of the most beautiful shots are just it showing the rain hitting the back of his shell or hitting his face as he opens his mouth to roar. It is just beautiful. That like there are just some really gorgeous shots in here that I think probably would not have looked as good if they were in color. The fact that they're in black and white makes it look so like desolate, and I just fucking love it.
It was almost noir.
Yes, it was. Now let's get into things we hate, and let's try not to bring in the child. I think we've hit the child enough. Cortez, what's something you don't like about the movie?
Honestly, I did not like Plan Z. Just in general, it just seems so unbelievable and so unbelievably expensive. I mean, let's just think about the logistics of this for just a quick second. They mentioned that Gamera is 50 meters tall, right? So anywhere from 50 to 60. That makes him anywhere from 160 to 200 feet tall. 200 feet tall. Now, that spaceship that they put him in, the section of the spaceship that actually holds him was probably what, 1/5 or 1/6 the total length of the rocket, which means that rocket would have to be almost 1,000 feet tall. The longest rocket that's ever been shot into space is only about 400 and change. So I mean, and anybody who's ever heard me on my other podcasts, I tend to do this where I start throwing logic into completely illogical situations. But as soon as I saw the size of the rocket and the fact that just that little tiny top part held Gamera, I'm like, oh, come on. That rocket's the size of So it just threw me out of it a little bit. Granted, in an entertaining way, I did chuckle. It's not like I got mad at the movie or anything, but that definitely brought a unintentional smile to my face.
Yeah. Not only that, with the Plan Z, fucking, they're like, it's 24 hours. So for 24 hours, we're just going to like run trains filled with fucking petroleum into them and cause explosions for 24 hours.
That's a lot of oil.
That is a lot of oil. Like, we are just like, we lost like 8 Jurassic Park movies just in that 24 hours. We're not getting that back.
I just love how they like have like these like little like flamethrowers all around the fucking where he has to stand to get into the trap too. Like, how much do those fucking cost? Like, we're just gonna put these here so we can lure him in conveniently.
Well, here's the other part too. Here's the other part too about that whole plan. You got to dig 1,000-foot hole in the middle of the ground on that island.
Yeah,
To put that rock in it.
Yeah, how did they get all of this done in a 24-hour time span?
Yeah.
Were they already building the giant rocket and was like, much like the ice bombs they had earlier? Well, we were actually already working on this. We're not sure why. We thought maybe one day we'd have to send something fucking huge into outer space. You never know.
I gotta imagine that rocket was there waiting for something, but what the plan? I mean, unless this is a world where they've already gone through a Godzilla situation and that's what they're preparing for, maybe. But it's like, what else other than a giant monster are you gonna shoot into space in this thing in 1965? I mean, it's not like they're colonizing Mars. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very strange. All right, Derek, what's something you do not like about this movie?
Well, not to get into the kid, but I didn't like. Well, this isn't really about the kid. It's more about like the situations. Like, whatever happened to his fucking father? They never explained why he went with the uncle and why the father didn't go too and shit.
I assume the dad is staying to oversee the reconstruction, and
Maybe, but I wish they did have like a little conversation about that too.
You're right, because they just drop him completely off the planet.
Plus, the whole like thing with the ice bombs, like why do they only last 10 minutes? Who knows? But that's kind of convenient that they only last 10 minutes because it took them that long to fucking do the charges that long. You know what I mean?
They just like to time everything. This is 10 minutes. This is 24 hours. At least everything's on a specific time limit.
Yeah, but still, you know what I mean? Like at that time.
Yeah, very convenient.
Yeah.
All right, Don, what's something you do not like about this movie?
Okay, one of the big issues for me that I noticed is that the final half just kind of seems to peter out, where it's always like, one thing pops up and it's like, okay, we have to do something to fill the time, because it actually I don't know what I'm trying to say, but when they're filming it took up less time than they imagined, so they have to stretch the film out to a feature length. So, okay, well, first of all, now we've got to, drag them across the ocean. Oh, well, we got to, burn the fire out. But then, now all of a sudden we're going to set the island on fire. Oh, but there's a typhoon. Oh, but we're going to try it again. And then all of a sudden the volcano goes off. And it's like everything just kind of the final half just seems like it's too many things thrown in just to stretch the time out.
Okay, yeah, no, I see that, because after the ice bombing and that not working, they're like, oh, weapons aren't going to work. From there to the end, it just seems like at this point we're just going to stretch a lot of shit. And if you can believe in a giant turtle, well, we hope you can believe in us doing all this in 24 hours.
Yeah, because it's like, all of a sudden, we're gonna drag them across the, we're gonna drag them across the sea with the gasoline trail. Oh, but the fire's gonna get burned out. Let's just, set the island on fire and hope that works. Oh, but then, the typhoon burns that out, and then all of a sudden the volcano erupts, and it's like, it's just all these things thrown together just to stretch the time out rather than actually just building logically.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So for me, it's a very small dislike, but it really annoys me. I really fucking hate Gamera's eyes. They just seem so lifeless and no emotion or anything. Like when I watch a Godzilla movie, for most of the suits, the eyes seem lively. There's something there. Gamera has like Shin Godzilla eyes, just fucking super, just like there's nothing there.
Like he doesn't get more like lifeful in that area until like the 90s ones, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and all the fucking Showa Gamera movies, they all kind of look terrible. That's the one thing I'll say that I don't like about the suit design. It's just those eyes. I love the suit design, but those fucking eyes are besides the kid, is my biggest complaint about this movie, because whenever I almost like look away when the eyes show up. Like, I just want to see his body. I don't want to see his eyes. It fucks with me a little. I don't know. It reminds me that it's a suit.
Yeah, I can get that because, I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, you can tell with Godzilla where, the eyelids will flap or, his eyes will dart back and forth. There's movement there that kind of like tricks you into thinking it's an actual being, that it's not just, an artificial object. Gamera, it's just, the wide, unblinking eyes that do nothing. It's just they stay there. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's honestly my biggest issue with the movie. But I do think that Gamera himself, like the design of the suit is fantastic. I love how they did his shell, having the scales kind of come up a little bit at the tail ends of them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would hurt. If you just got graded against that, it would just fucking hurt.
Yeah, kind of part of what makes him have like a bow-legged walk, kind of.
Yeah, true that, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually do like the way they make him walk, and how Derek pointed out how he crawls, and he can crawl very fast. But when he's walking, he's a little like when you've like shaved the inside of your thighs and you're walking like a fucking cowboy.
Yeah,
like that's how Gamera walks, and it works out so well. So I do have one last question for you guys before we wrap up our Gamera thing. What country do you believe the planes from the beginning belong to? Where are these mysterious planes from? Cortez, you're up first. Where do you think they're from?
China.
Okay.
And I base that on nothing.
Hey, I base most of my life on nothing. It works very well. Derek, where do you think they're from?
Russia.
Russia. Okay.
I just think that way because it's the way because the Americans shoot them down.
Okay, fair enough. Don?
I'm going to go off the beaten track here. I'm going to say they're from Spain, trying to throw themselves into the nuclear fray.
It was Cortez all along.
Fucking Cortez and his Mussolini shit.
Hey, we're always trying to take over countries, man. It's what we do.
Yeah.
That's why most of the world speaks Spanish.
True that, man.
All right, we're not going to get into the genocide of Christopher Columbus or anything, but I actually will go a little bit more off the beaten path. I think they actually belong to the U.S. And there's miscommunication because they're from a higher level of secrecy in the military, and information was not given like it should be because it was a need-to-know basis. And because they mentioned dropping nuclear weapons, there's only a few countries at this time that have nuclear weapons.
True.
Yeah,
True that.
I can see that. Some rinky-dink operation in the middle of the Arctic. Who's going to bother telling them?
Exactly. They're not even going to fucking notice. So that's where I'm leaning towards. So definitely in the audience, y'all let us know what country you think they're from, because I want to know if anyone has any clues, because I feel like it's one of those things where people will like dig through everything to figure it out. Like when they figured out what actual day Ice Cube's "It Was a Good Day" was on. Someone does that shit, or like with It Follows, they figured out how many miles the it walked. Like, because there's people out there that just do that kind of shit. So I'm like, if anyone's done that and they know about it, point me in that direction. I want to know about it. So, time for final thoughts on Gamera. I just want to say, this is, if you watch the Sandy Frank version, watch it with Mystery Science Theater. It is hilarious. It is fantastic. And plus, you get to hear a song that you'll hear in a moment that will just warm your heart. But if you're going to watch the original Japanese version, you've got two ways to get it. You can get the Mill Creek Blu-ray or DVD set, or you can get the Shout Factory one. The Shout Factory, like I said, has that great commentary. It also has another special feature on there that is actually subtitled because it's in Japanese, and it's someone going through like the history of Gamera and where it started, which is really good. and both have fantastic quality. I love this movie. I think this is a great kaiju movie. To me, it's actually, while it has a lot of things that you will see as you continue forward in the Gamera movies, the fact that Gamera is an antagonist in this movie is what really sets it apart. But I think the one thing that we've all pointed out that people will notice, the cinematography in this is way better than just some cheap B movie. This is a really well put together movie. And the director of it, this guy did tons of Gamera movies. He did almost all of the Showa movies except for Gamera vs. Baragon.
And we all know why. We all know why.
Wait, why? Why? 'Cause I don't...
No, that's an in-joke. Have you ever read the thing from G-Fan that you'll never eat this town for lunch again?
No, I haven't.
Oh, they make a joke that Gamera himself actually directed Gamera vs. Baragon.
Oh wow, that's funny. I have a bunch of G-Fan magazines. I need to pull those out.
Yeah, it's from like it's like in the 30s or it's like in the 30s or 40s somewhere. They make a joke that Gamera himself actually directed it under the pseudonym.
Wow, that's hilarious. Actually, I had not heard about that one.
Yeah, just a stupid in joke.
Fair enough. Well, Don, while you're still talking, what are your final words on Gamera?
It's a fun movie. I have very few flaws, and none of them are really all that detrimental. You got plenty to like. The monsters cool. Plenty of destruction. I definitely gonna give this a very high recommend. It's much better than you think it is.
I agree there. Cortez, what's your parting words?
Well, I mean, this movie definitely sets up a great little universe for Gamera to run around in. It shows an amazing amount of artistry with, I'm not sure if you mentioned 40 million yen. I'm not sure if that was a small budget or a big budget for Japan in that year, but it seems like they did a lot with that money. The effects all look great. I love the music. I have the same issues that you do with the kid, and maybe an added couple of things with the Z plan, and a few of the scenes being just a little bit too dark, which obviously you can deal with yourself on your white balance on your television, your brightness. But ultimately, love the film. We'll definitely revisit it many, many times, and definitely a strong recommend. As if you like kaiju movies. This film and this set in general is definitely worth owning. Go get it.
For comparison, the original Gojira from 1954 had $100 million budget.
Yeah, so
compared to this Gamera's $40 million. So it was, and keep in mind, at the time that the original Gojira came out, it and Seven Samurai were like the most expensive movies Japan had ever made. Mm. So we'd probably see 40 million for Gamera at this point after, they started raising budgets. It's probably still a medium to low budget.
Yep.
But that's just a guess. Speaking of guesses, the best guest host to ever hit 22 shots, Derek, what's your final verdict?
Gamera, man, it's a great standalone kaiju movie. It has great cinematography, and it's very interesting that it was in black and white during this time period because there was a lot of kaiju movies from Toho even that were in color at the time. So the way that they went black and white, I kind of respected it because they wanted to tell like a forbidden story, and it has a dark image that goes well with the black and white and the cinematography, like you said before. And the music's very eerie. There's some eerie parts to it that work well. And like I said, I do have a few minor gripes with the movie, but it's still a fun standalone kaiju movie that sets up the world of Gamera well, especially with like some things that maybe we'll get into a little later that may be a little negative on some of the series qualities. But other than that, still a very entertaining film. If you're a fan of kaiju films and you haven't seen the first Gamera, check it out.
Yeah, and if you're not a fan, watch the Mystery Science Theater version.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, definitely.
All right, so that's our final thoughts on Gamera. It's definitely a high recommend for all three of us. We definitely all three have praised the cinematography for being way better than it rightfully should be. So that's our first foray into it. So we're gonna leave you with a parting song, but don't actually go away, because when we come back from this song, we will actually be doing our Ultraman. That's right. Every episode we are going to cover one episode of Ultraman, starting with episode 1, and it's our Ultraman files. You got to get into it. So we will be right back with Ultraman episode 1. And we are back. Now, let's open up the case file. Let's open up the Ultraman files. Here at what we like to call science, and how science should be reported, we are doing Ultra Operation number 1. Now, we all watched the Mill Creek release. I have a slightly different box set than y'all, because I have the nice 2-part box set that came out instead of all of it in one like cheap thing like Mill Creek likes to do. But the content's pretty much the same. And one of my favorite things about this actual box set is, and you actually see it in the first episode, if there are scenes that were taken out of the original English run, they put them back in and just have them subtitled.
Yes.
So that is great for someone like me who loves English dub, because I get the whole fucking pie now. And I'm super excited. So, Ultra Operation number 1. After Officer Haida was given the life of the alien from M78 Nebula, he has transformed himself using the Beta Capsule. He flies at the speed of Mach 5. He is an immortal man who destroys all enemies with massive power. Go our hero. Unfortunately, much like me, he barely lasts 5 minutes. You learn to live with it. You find ways around it. So, this first came out 7/17/1966. This is, of course, the child of Eiji Tsuburaya. And the fun thing about this, I mean, Tsuburaya had already done over 20 science fiction special effects movies for Toho before this. I mean, and we're talking big name movies, big Godzilla movies, other science fiction movies like The H-Man and Matango. And not only that, he's done tons of war movies. So at this point, he is an expert. And I also love the intro song. It is
great.
It is so catchy. Ultraman.
Ultraman.
Oh, it's so good. And then I love the credits, because it's just like silhouettes of all the monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the logos, like the science team logo and shit.
Yeah. Science Patrol.
Science Patrol, that's it.
I actually have a patch that is the Science Patrol logo. But I really want a pin, and I want the pin to have the antenna that comes up and down. I haven't looked to see if anyone's made it, but I'm pretty sure someone has. And I will buy it. I would pay $20 for that. I don't give a shit how stupid it is. I'll fucking do it. Damn it. So anyway, This episode opens with a glowing blue ball and a red ball, and they're kind of flying with each other, and Hayata is, cruising around in his space patrol vehicle. I don't know if he's cruising for chicks or if he's just, like, checking out these campers that are there or what he's doing. I'm going to hope it's less creepy than what it kind of looks like. So, we have the red ball. The blue ball goes into the water. The red ball hits Hayata's ship, and it crashes. And then we get a report to the Science Patrol. And did anyone else recognize the sound that was coming from the phone?
Ghidorah's roar.
Yeah, Ghidorah.
Yep, it was lovely Ghidorah. He actually makes most of his money that way.
He does.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him to do my voicemail, but he won't call me back. So, Hayata gets taken by the red ball, and then we get to stare at Ultraman's crotch.
A few times.
Yeah.
It looks like a very rapey scene where he's about to rape Hayata at the ball.
I was like, if a tentacle comes out, I'm fucking out. This is a hentai. I am leaving. But instead, he fuses himself with them, and they become one person.
Mm-hmm.
And with the beta capsule, he can become Ultraman. So, now we've got the Science Patrol coming down to check out all the explosions, talking to the campers, and then we get what we all came here for, and that's the annoying kid. He's actually really not that annoying, but sometimes he just says things that I'm just like, oh my fucking god. Like, golly, I guess I gotta stay, but I wish I could go along. Who says golly? It is 1966. No one said that since 1958 at most.
I reckon.
Yeah, supposing.
I'm sorry, that killed me. So, Fuji, who's the female, which will get pointed out to us, she gets on the ship and she goes out there and she's like, hey guys, Hayata told me that I need to come down here with the S16 sub. And dude goes, what do you mean? The ghost told you? And I'm like, dude, you haven't even found his body yet.
Yeah, like he's like, I think he's dead already.
Like, come on. Too soon, bro. Too soon. But then right after that, he makes a sexist joke and he's just like, well, she's a girl and they're very hard to figure out. And I'm just over here like, man, you are 2 for 2, homie. Like, and it's actually funny because he will become one of my favorite characters because him as a comic relief in this show works. It works so much.
Yeah, he definitely builds as the show progresses.
Yes. So now we have our monster, Belmer. Or however the fuck you pronounce his name. He shows up. He's cool. I also want to point out, does the music sound like an adventurous Western to y'all?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Like, it was like if a spaghetti Western was in an amusement park, this would be the soundtrack.
Yeah, it's like like they hired Reservoir Laney to do the soundtrack real quick.
Yes, exactly. So
and I want to know, Kunio Miyachi went from this to Godzilla's Revenge? I don't understand where the talent went.
That's a good question. Godzilla's Revenges, or in Japan as it's called All Monsters Attack.
Monsters Attack, yeah.
That is the worst Japanese Godzilla movie ever made.
But we'll get into that one day.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that one. Can I skip that episode? Can I not be here for that?
We're all gonna take a sick day for that episode.
I'm just gonna shit all over that movie.
We're gonna be drinking heavily during that episode.
Yeah, that'll be our drunken episode. Yeah, that'll be the drunken episode.
Oh, like that.
You know what? We'll do a commentary for that one. We'll just drink and do a commentary.
Nice.
Take a shot every time you're disappointed.
Oh, we won't make it.
So Belmer is underwater, and do y'all love underwater shots in kaiju movies as much as I do? Like,
when done well.
I love the, like Jerry said, the done well stuff. And I'm definitely going to throw this under the done well category. The shots in here are beautiful.
Yeah,
they are.
They're definitely like some of the better like underwater like kaiju, even for like TV scale. This is really shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Some of the plants are even moving. It's fantastic.
Exactly. And I mean, a lot of it is due to the, back and forth nature, because it's sort of like he's chasing him down. So it's like, they're on the move while they're battling. And yeah, this definitely is one of my favorite underwater battles.
Yeah, I love it. This is, the look of it, I just love underwater. Like, Terra Mechagodzilla is one of my favorites. And I just love underwater shots in kaiju movies. And yeah, this one is definitely up there. So, well, he ends up grabbing the sub in his mouth. I guess he wanted Subway. So he's got the S-16 in his mouth, and he finally comes out of the water, and we get a better look at Belmer, and Belmer is baggy. Just like Derek.
He kind of looks like a fucking, like one of the trolls from Ernest Scared Stupid. The one with the fucking fat chin.
Yeah.
With little short stubby arms.
Yeah, but the suit in general is just really fucking baggy. I actually like him better underwater, because as soon as he comes out, at that point you notice his arms are fucking stupid, and
you can see like the little creases in the legs, like it looks like kind of like cheap rubber in a way.
Oh yeah, his crotch looked awful.
Cortez, why are you looking at monster crotch?
Well, I need to, I need to see how much these movies arouse me, and this one did nothing for me.
Okay.
I found it difficult to masturbate.
I love kaiju crotch shots, man. Come on.
I just feel I can just like picture Cortez going up to his wife, "Hey, baby, you ever made love to an Ultraman episode? We're gonna do that tonight."
Then he goes to the recorder and presses play, and then the fucking Ultraman theme plays. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, do it in the suit? Oh, if I had the suit, I'm in.
But you can only last 5 minutes.
Hey, well, it half an episode at least. Give me 12. I can do 12.
I'm still trying to figure out what I was going to do with the other 4 minutes. I guess cuddle? I don't know. But yeah, Don, how did you feel about the monster suit?
It looks like a walking tree trunk. He looks so much better underwater because the face looks great. I love the fact that they're going for like a sea dragon kind of a thing with him, but it's a great idea in concept, but the execution is just horrible.
Yeah, and to be fair, sometimes Ultraman knocks it out with amazing suits, and then other times it's lackluster. And I just don't know why they chose to start lackluster, but maybe it didn't look lackluster to them.
Well, the other thing, too, is that I would imagine, this is episode 1. We're, just trying to figure out where we're going. Because you realize the difference between Ultra Q and Ultraman is kind of, like a really big, drastic shift. So I'm not going to be that hard on them for episode 1, just trying to get their feet on the ground, figure out where they're going with it.
Okay, fair enough. Well,
yeah.
Now we're into what we all came to see, the real glory of this episode. And for that, we have to go to our ringside announcer, the man who has the plans, the man who knows how to call the shots. Don, can you break down this monster fight for us?
Indeed, I can. It starts off with back and forth shoving before Ultraman hip checks Bimlar, jumping on top to land some clubbing blows, while it rolls over and lands on top of Ultraman at the lake. Ultraman fights him off and gets back to shore as Bimlar approaches, but gets shoved back into the lake and tries to retreat. Ultraman grabs his tail to prevent him from leaving as the color timer starts going on, drawing concern from the Science Patrol observing the fight. Dodging a ray blast from Bimlar that lights the forest up, Ultraman flies in behind Bimlar and tackles him with some more clubbing blows to the back. He's picked up and swung around before being dropped on the ground and clubbed about the back again, before being lifted over his head and tossed into the lake. Sinking beneath the surface, Bemlar transforms back into the blue orb, which is then blown up with the specium ray.
That was perfect. I loved everything about that. Yeah, I really do love the fighting style of Ultraman. Dropping elbows and shit like a wrestler.
He's doing like Hogan leg elbow drops and shit.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I love his hand beam. And one of the things I actually really like about Ultraman is his power warning, because it makes it to where he does have a handicap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A lot of these shows in this area, they have no handicaps. They can literally just go at, like, if Johnny Sacco and his flying robot show up, they're gonna destroy you. There's no handicap there. So with Ultraman having his handicap, I really loved it. All in all, I'd say this is an okay episode. It's an average episode. Most of it obviously is spent into kind of setting up, but they actually don't do that much setup in this episode. You will actually learn more stuff as you go forward. This was literally just here so we can fuse Ultraman and Hayata together.
Right. Yeah. That's. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Derek, how do you feel about this episode? What did you like?
It's a good little start episode. Like Don said earlier, it's the start of like what's to come, and like little minor gripes we do have with the first kaiju that we see in this show. I mean, I always confuse TV shows and movies on my own show.
That's true.
But yeah, it's like, even though Belmar is a little flawed as a kaiju, it's still a little great setup because of the vast amount of kaijus that we do see later on in the show, and when we do get more into more episodes. So it's a little good look setup for like a pilot episode, you know what I mean? We get to meet some of the characters, like the main like Science Patrol, and little handicaps that they have as characters, and as their characters will grow later on in the show also. So it's a good little start. So it's a okay episode in my opinion to start off a show with.
Okay. Cortez, where are you at?
I I love the character of Ultraman. I thought his setup was great. Hayata's setup was fine. As a viewer, a first-time viewer, I'd be looking forward to, where this storyline is going, specifically Hayata's story, his little character arc. But I gotta say, due to the lackluster costuming on the villain of the episode, of the Kaiju, it just took me out of it a little bit. It took a little credibility away from it, in the sense that it started out feeling a lot like a young adults program, but then as soon as that Kaiju shows up, it turned into a kid's show to me. And I'm hoping that vibe goes away as we go through the show. I'm hoping the Kaiju are going to look a little bit better. Obviously, I'm not expecting, Toho quality Godzilla type stuff in there, but at least get a stuntman who fits in the costume and maybe fills it out a little more. I try to suspend disbelief as much as anybody, but when I'm laughing at the Kaiju's costume, it's taking me out of how great the choreography and, some of the shots are. I'm just laughing too hard is the problem. So I do like the show after the first episode. I'm looking forward to where it's going. But I genuinely hope that both the action and the Kaiju improve, which I'm sure they do. So,
yeah. All right, Don.
This is certainly, like they've said, a flawed beginning. You do have some stuff to like. I mean, I love the setup with the Science Patrol. They have some cool toys. The S-16, and then that flying ship that they're in, where they're flying overhead. Bemlar is kind of a weak, introduction. He doesn't really look that great. He kind of doesn't really do that much. But I'll say this: if I'm a 16-year-old kid in Japan, 1966. My parents have taken me to see Godzilla and Gamera and Frankenstein Conquers the World and War of the Gargantuas and all that stuff. This thing pops up. Oh, I am planting my ass right next to that TV every Saturday. It's fun. It's fine for what it is. It's not perfect, but yeah, it's better than average. But it's like they said, flawed but perfect, flawed but watchable, I guess.
It's definitely above average. Yeah.
Yeah.
The series is great, and there's episodes where it is more kid oriented, and there's episodes where it's more, I don't know, maybe teenager oriented. And some of them are just great, like creatively, the monsters are interesting, and then some have like just better storylines, like creativity. At some point, there's a monster that like, whenever they draw something, it becomes that monster. Mm-hmm. And that was a good episode. But then you have episodes where you have like a mad scientist who's been feeding a dinosaur under a lake.
Yeah.
That episode, like story-wise, is just fantastic. And then you've got episodes that you just don't really care as much about. But the good thing, guys, is Ultraman, the DVD set is cheap. You can buy it. How much? One of y'all bought it, right?
Yeah, I picked it up for $12.
Yeah.
Brand new. Yeah.
$12, 39 episodes. You really can't beat that. It is fantastic. So pick it up. Join us as we go through. And because we're not going to go in detail every episode, except for the fights. Don will be detailing the fights for us.
Kaiju play-by-play.
Exactly. But every episode, we are going to cover the next episode of Ultraman. So you will get a movie review and an Ultraman episode. And then every couple episodes, we'll break it up and we'll do a couple of Ultraman episodes together. So,
nice.
Thank you everyone for joining us for our first episode of Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space, a podcast that brings you the visions from Monsterland. My name is Jerry from Kill the Cast. There will be all the links to all of our stuff in the description. But, Derek, tell them where you're from.
And you can find me on Cinema Attack and join us on the Cinema Attack Facebook group where we post shows momentarily. We're taking a little loose, like getting back into the thing of things through like the year-end show and stuff. So we posting episodes there and stuff. We actually just posted one yesterday, actually. So check that out. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Now, Derek, if you had to recommend someone to listen to one show of yours, which show would you recommend to them?
One of the, like, our year-end show was probably my favorite experience because I never did one of those. But another one, like our standard, like, review episodes, I really enjoyed the Carnival horror show that we did, and also the Die Hard franchise was really fun to do.
Gotcha. All right, Mr. Cortez, drop your information.
All right, you can hear me on the Rad Radio All 80s podcast, available, soon to be available on the Horrorphilia network of podcasts. You can also hear me on various episodes of the Horrorcast, as I am the fill-in host there. This month, I also join, on a full-time basis, I joined the cast of Theme Warriors with Mike Merriman, Iris, and Doug Tilley. I will be replacing Jeffrey X. Martin, who unfortunately will be taking an extended sabbatical from the podcasting world. Jeff, if you're listening, it was a pleasure listening to you, and I hope I do you, a good service by taking your spot on this great podcast. That one's also available on the Horrorphilia podcast network of podcasts. And the last one is one more that I do for the Evil Episodes network. Evil Episodes podcast presents Just the Movies. I do that with Mr. Mike Merriman, where we basically review one brand new movie as soon as it comes out. Recently, we've done The Ritual. We've done the new Hellraiser movie, Hellraiser Judgment. And basically, if it's brand new, we'll try to watch it as soon as it's available on streaming or in theaters and get our just, quick initial reactions to it out to you. Let you know if it's worth spending your time and money on it. Other than that, I'm all over Facebook, all over the Horrorphilia network. I'm not hard to find. Mr. Venom, come find me.
That's true. Nice. I had dinner and went and saw Suspiria in theaters with Mr. X Martin.
Nice.
It was him and his wife and a bunch of other people like Ricky Morgan and Bo, and it was fun. We had a great time. Now, if someone wants to, they've got to pick one episode that you're on out of all these podcasts. What's the episode you're telling them to listen to that's going to shine and show them how great you are?
Well, I mean, if you're nostalgic, I would say check out our next episode of Rad Radio, the All 80s podcast. For the first time, we're doing a retrospective on an actual year from the 80s. So we went ahead and tackled 1984. We talk about just movies, music, video games, sports.
Did y'all steal the script for I Love the 80s from VH1 or?
I wish we were that clever, but none of us know how to read. So that
fair enough.
That puts a timer on that. But yeah, join me. That's Mark, who's also a host on the Horrorcast. Once again, Mr. Mike Merriman, Tammy Turner, and any guest who wants to join and jump in and just chat 80s nostalgia is always welcome to join. And yeah, I would say that's especially that next episode. We all had a great time on this episode. I strongly recommend that one.
All right, Don. Tell them where they can find you at.
All right. Well, they can find me on the Horror Mafia, which is part of this lovely Horrorphilia group, the Horrorphilia Network. We have a Patreon page you can find under Horror Mafia Podcast. We have a page you can like and a group you can join. So we hope to see you there.
Yeah, and like I said, there will be links to all of everybody's stuff in the description. I always make sure to get that in there. But Don, they've got one episode to listen to. What episode are you telling them to listen to?
Well, it's not like I really don't want to blow my own special guest all that much, but I definitely want to say a special episode that Mr. Herring joined up on episode 12 or 13 or 14, somewhere in there. He came on with us to discuss Abominable Snowman from the Himalayas and Jack Frost. So that was a great one.
Oh, and Ice Cream Man.
Ice Cream Man, yeah, that was
right.
the other one.
Yep.
Yeah, I would definitely say that one would be I
think it was episode 13.
Yeah, it was 12 or 13. It was somewhere in there.
That was definitely one of the more fun episodes of the Horror Mafia. You guys were all on point, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely been one of my favorite ones so far. I guess our year-end show as well, but as like Derek said, if you want to go for a review one, I think it's 13. That's definitely a number that's ringing in my head for some reason.
Yeah, fair enough.
So the one with Jerry Herring, that was probably the one to check out.
Yeah,
I definitely agree there. I am wonderful. And as for me, Kill the Cast, we just put out our top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. That is a fun one to do just because everyone's very different. And we had Carly, who I do the unofficial HorrorPack podcast with. She was on there. So I personally love top 10 list. And I love hearing someone's top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. Just to see how much of it's nostalgia, how much is it just something out there that I've never heard of. If it's that good that it would make a top 10, I need to go see that. And not spoilers, but you'll see 2 Toho movies show up on my list. One of them being Matango, and you can probably guess what the other one is.
I think I know the other one because it's on my top 10.
It is. And so you can check out Kill the Cast. We're doing all kind of stuff. I also do a Married with Children podcast. If you're into Married with Children, it has way better production than this show because Alex Edwards does it and I don't have to. And that's why it's better. But other than that, guys, we will see you next time here. And we'll be doing another episode of Ultraman and another movie. Who knows what movie yet because we haven't talked about it. But thank you all for listening. And we will see you soon. And hopefully, Tokyo will still be alive.
Definitely.
Here's hoping.
That's your rich you return, you deserve to resume your sobbing. Trying to solve your talent problems like finding new research in the murder of Tutankhamun. You're still searching for words like the stirrers with Luke the Body. That means you bring lyrics about as hot as Scorpion's counterpart that ain't even original. We spent this whole competition proving we had the sicker flow. Influenza now with A to Z, we about to kill the show. Y'all giving props like you're shocked or you didn't know. But here's a warning. Run away, run away, gotta run away, run away. Cause we bringing that fire. We barge it and we shut it down. Bringing that fire. We barge it and we shut it down. My Mounts an AK and sprays when I control it. Aim to struggle rappers fake, saying, hey, they're raking dough, but impression time is JK. They ain't really rolling. Wanting free beats, love the way that I destroy them. I annoy them cause I only scheme. Everything's a strategy. My chatter be casting shadows over people like drunken wings. With fire blowing dreams. You want me to turn it down? Don't hold your breath, you might end up looking like an aubergine. So let go, listen to what Emojin sings. I put it down like the line has a frozen ring to it. They wonder how I do that, cause I made all my y'all take 5 like you were feeling Dave Brubeck. This is 3-headed monster music. That ain't the 5 ambition getting thrown into the beat when I abuse it. Half of these people frontin' and thinking that they can see the team, but we're revolutionaries, they're facing the guillotine. And I'm Maximilian, we're gonna try to whip beyond. Gotta be bringing the bars, so we're giving a reason to leave it done. So you bringing the heat to try for the crunk run is like going glove for glove with Tyson and punch ya. Run away, run away. Cause we come in with that fire. We barge in and we shut it down. We come in with that fire. We barge in and we shut it down.
I'm feeling like a kaiju, bigger than the liver spots on an old white dude. Flow acapella, no haiku. Last round, better tell him what that flow might do. King on the mic, you don't wanna fight. Better take a flight before you get devoured in a single bite. Beast with a size 50 meters high, demon in his mind. This is not a drill, run for your lives. I be on the grind, money on the mind, steady trying to find a way to stay fly like Rodan. Barbarian, call me Conan. Hit him with the punchlines, better than Muhammad on the ropes can. Spare no man, number 1 killer. Smoke a fat sack, feeling like I'm Shubzilla. Roll another blunt, then I call one up. Do it every dang day, cause I need a drug dealer. I don't give a up for what scene you're the leader of. When I'm heated up, I spit teams like Ghidorah. Better stay sleep if you dreaming of beating us. Wake up and see your whole team getting eaten up. Richie.
Run away, run away. Cause we come in with that fire. We barge in and we shut it down. We come in with that fire. We barge in and we shut it down.
Armageddon's on the way, Obama said it. I've been getting armed and ready in an armory with my army. I've been ready since the jump, man. Throw some mutton chomps with something like the trunk of a 100-ton elephant in the trunk, man. And dropping knowledge like a senior started varsity pitcher, slinging a zinger at his biology teacher in the dunk tank. Leave a pump with his dunk taste. With day and dash in the session, it's so professional, fresh and nothing less than exceptional. What the heck does she respect? Best expression, respect when addressing the best. Less, that's a definite yes that you playing checkers with chess. They a checkerboard, jump 'em like a checker on a checkerboard. Mess up your dress and have the doc checking your chest. Add Richie Branson and genetic advancements and you get some kind of chemically enhanced handsome. 3-headed, 6-eyed, hide you from the dark side. You might know him by a different name when you see him dark side. Swimming in dihydrogen monoxide. Scientific name, triple brain, 3 cerebral tricranium. An evil-eyed alien with teeth of titanium. For birthdays, we get stupid in a gymnasium and blow out lip fuses on yellow cake uranium. Don't matter what your name, rank or label, and we ladle feeding lame labels greater than radio grade radium. Raising the rate of radio radiation great enough to irradiate a stadium with rays made of mania. That's no dinosaur. It's more of a primal force. I mean 3 spinal cords and it hasn't even reached its final form.